We're going to talk docs tonight, so please welcome Doug Blush.
For years and years, I go all the way back to Media 100s and After Effects 3.0 and that sort of stuff. And this place has meant a lot to me because it really has helped me to go from I don't know how to do that to I'm talking to you guys now, which is really, it's a huge honor to come here because it's kind of a full circle for me. So I was very, very pleased when Michael said, come on down and show some clips and talk a little bit. This is real free range tonight. It's going to be extra free range because I am exhausted and I've been in the edit room for the 12 to 14 hours where I damaged my body with Zach. Yeah, I need my bullet, my Shakeology. I didn't bring that. I will say, however, I loved Zach's presentation and I'm going to literally like download his website. It is something that we are self-punishing in a way that I don't even think the biggest masochist in some Hollywood dungeon there somewhere, nobody does to them what we do as editors. So I'm really proud that somebody's taking the ball and running with this. It's really, really an important thing, and I think it's a life-saving thing. 5 years ago, I had my assistant go get a socket wrench, and the desk I work on doesn't raise and lower, but it does raise and bolt permanently to a standing position, which I did, and I have never lowered it since. And I'll tell you right now, if there's one thing you guys can do to change your lives, jack that desk up and don't sit down again. It's a huge, huge deal. In fact, it is a life changer, and I just wanted to put that out there because I do think, this is saving lives. I really believe that, or it's extending lives. It's an important thing because we focus too much and we're so into it. If you stand, you're rocking, your hips are moving, and I groove to my edits now. I go home to my daughter and I can like dance with her instead of the old days when I walked in and I was like, the 2,000-year-old man. This is a different world now. So yes, Zach, thank you for what you're doing. I really appreciate that, and I think it matters a lot. Yeah. Anyway, I'm actually gonna open this up. I'm gonna show some clips. It's gonna be like a clip reel night, and we can talk and you can ask questions and stuff. I'm gonna talk a little loosely about what I kind of look for when I work on docs. There is no real rule. I mean, I can do a drum roll and say, I am going to tell you the secret of the edit of the doc. The truth is, I have no idea. Actually, I'll ablate that with, I have no idea until after I've done it. And then I can go back and say, well, I did that, It's a little bit, I always call it jazz. It's like playing jazz. If you're bad at jazz, everybody hears the changes, right? If you're good at jazz, it's like everybody's grooving and you just move along. And that means cinematography and the director and the producers. And good jazz is a combo, It's the editor brings, I always think of the editor as the bassist or the drummer, really, because they're the ones who's going to keep it on track. But I like this kind of jazz. It's magic when it works, and it's kind of a beautiful craft. I think editing is the most cinematic of all crafts because there's no real analogy to it in other fields. I think it's a really amazing filmic-only invention, really. So without talking too much about stuff, I'm just going to show this, and this will give you an idea of what I've been wasting my time on for the last decade or so. Here you go.
Welcome to the 28th American Crossword Puzzle Tournament.
This summer, IFC Films and the Weinstein Company take you word by word.
I've always been intrigued by the letter Q.
Through the national phenomenon that has 50 million Americans.
Half the time I do these things to see what people are thinking about.
Thinking inside the box.
I am a Times puzzle fan. I will solve USA Today, but I don't feel good about myself.
Wordplay. It's very clever.
The more popular the film, the worse condition the original negative is going to be in. It's been loved to death.
Somebody says, why would you save movies? I'd ask those people back, why do you save your family pictures?
Prices are skyrocketing.
This country has started consuming more than it produces.
Let's say I don't have enough money to buy something. Should I buy it anyway?
God bless.
They say money doesn't buy happiness. Wanna bet?
The line between like economist and criminal is incredibly thin.
And what about journalist?
No line.
Oh, that is so cool!
Total BS, wasn't it?
These songs are really the fabric of a generation and of a society.
It was incestuous in the best way.
There was a trifecta going on. The bedroom was Laurel Canyon, the living room was a troubadour, and marijuana was a church.
Let me be clear. I am not gay.
There are names in the folks in the Congress and high positions of power who are leading a secret double life. He's a closeted gay man.
He's a closeted gay man, too.
They have been chasing us for years. We're going to chase back.
It is very important that the people who make the law be subject to the law.
This is your voting record, and it seems to run absolutely contradictory to the way you've lived your personal life.
You know what the right value is? The right value is truthfulness. The right value is honesty.
I am the Conundrum.
I'm Master Legend.
My name is Mr. Extreme. I'm a crime-fighting real-life superhero.
Real-life superheroes aren't necessarily any crazier than you or I or anyone else.
People laugh at him at first, but he's a pretty serious dude.
You pull up in a supermobile, and people are like, damn, this guy is a superhero.
It's very difficult to do a story on the most powerful institution in the world.
The Department of Defense has a history of covering up sexual offense problems. I don't know who you think elected you to defy the Congress of the United States. What is it you're trying to hide?
Now that was manic.
It's really quite interesting to be nuts. You know?
They're in the game and they stayed in the game, and they're legends.
It is my honor to induct into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame and about time to Miss Darlene Love.
And the Oscar goes to 20 Feet from Stardom. Morgan Neville, Gail Friesen, and Katrine Rogers.
Thank you.
I should have had a warning about the idiot who screams at the end. Yes, yeah. It's been a fun 10 years, and then many years before that, doing all kinds of other stuff. I checked. I had to confirm this. I actually made a list to confirm this, but I have officially crossed 40 feature docs that I've either edited, produced, written, or supervised in some way or another, and that has been a great ride. It's been a lot of fun. I've worked with so many amazing people, and I've met so many amazing people. That's what I really love about documentaries, is that it's not, okay, you know, martini shot, everybody goes home, and that's the end of it. You are in doc for life. You're basically, you bond with the people you make the films about. You stay in touch with them. I have Will Shortz's, private email if I want to get an answer for a crossword puzzle, that sort of thing. It's a really wonderful field, and it's really hit. I feel very, very fortunate that I happened to jump on the train at exactly the time that I think the wave is crested, and suddenly we have docs everywhere. It's really great. How many people love documentaries? Okay. How many people actually watch documentaries? Thank you for lying. Okay. No, I mean, the truth is...
half or maybe less than a fewer documentaries in my film.
Thank you. Wow. On actual disc? Wow. Oh, man. You just doubled our profits there. The one word that has risen up in the last few years that really has revolutionized the stuff we do is Netflix. I mean, Netflix has changed the visibility and the viability of documentaries, along with HBO, Showtime, PBS with their wonderful series like POV and Independent Lens. It's a golden time for docs, and the community that's formed around documentary are some of the best people in the world. There are such heroes out there doing such great work. People like, you've got your Kirby Dicks and you've got your Eugene Jareckis making really amazing films. Eventually there's going to be a film about Edward Snowden that's going to blow everybody's mind because the filmmaker, Laura Poitras, literally was there in Hong Kong when he fled. And these are the kind of things that no one else is getting. The media is not getting this. The mainstream media, the CBS, NBC, ABC, they have given up. They show puff pieces and 2-minute reels, and that's it. There are no more documentaries on network TV anymore. It's kind of been left to us to do this stuff, and it's a really thrilling time to be doing this. It's the new journalism, and it's the new creative field, I think. So what I look for when I'm cutting this stuff, when I'm actually going and looking at a giant pile of footage, and I mean giant, on a feature film, people more familiar on the feature world know how much footage they're ingesting. We begin usually at 500 hours, and I've seen people go up to 5,000. And that is, that doesn't count, the graphics and the stills and all the other stuff that get thrown in the mix. So it's a brutal amount of media management. It's a brutal amount of sifting through and understanding the footage. And it all comes down to one really simple thing, and this goes across all types of filmmaking. It's character and story. It's all character and story. And that's really what I look for. When I'm working on a film, the first thing I say is, who are the characters? And what is the story you're trying to tell? And what I'm going to do tonight, I'm just going to show you some clips that illustrate a little bit of what character looks like in documentary and how I kind of throw together ideas for things that I think will rise up as characters. This is from Wordplay. I'm going to show this real quick as a sample of the 5 characters we had in the film who are the puzzlers, the supreme, ultimate crossword puzzle doers. This is by far my favorite of the 5 characters because of her story. And we basically had the admonition, you've got like 3 minutes to tell a character story for each one of these. This film has tons of stuff going on. You have to have a complete profile of a character in 3 minutes for each of these people. Go. And so this is a little something about one of our primary characters in Wordplay.
9-letter word for cocktail with a cherry. 15-letter word for resistant to moisture, say. 5-letter word for clued in. Great. I'm Ellen Ripstein. We're in the back of Park West Village. I went to the very first tournament in 1978, and I came in the 30s. So really just at the tournaments, as I gradually started getting better, I guess I realized, gee, I must be really good at this. But it still sort of amazes me, because when I see a Saturday Times puzzle and I do it in 10 minutes, and then on the forum they're saying it took all afternoon, that just seems so strange to me. What was their problem? Why couldn't they do the puzzle? Or I guess I've just accumulated a lot of useless knowledge that often is in the puzzles. For 18 years in a row, I was so close to the top. I was in the finals, I think 11 times, the top 3, and didn't win. So then every year, I kept not winning until finally, in 2001, one of the contestants was having lunch with a friend of his who worked for the Wall Street Journal and telling him about this tournament he was about to go to. And so the Wall Street Journal did a front page piece on me a week before the tournament with the picture and everything. And this is just mind-boggling. I'm just like a little nerd girl, and here I am on the front of the Wall Street Journal. This tournament we had ABC News, CBS, just tons of press. So the top 3 were me, Al Sanders and Patrick Jordan, who are all really good, but it wasn't people who've won. So Patrick finished the puzzle first, and they were saying that all the air just got sucked out of the room because Patrick is nice, and people would like him to win, but God, they really wanted me to win already. And then
Patrick's in.
But hold on a minute.
With a mistake.
There was a bad crossing, and he had made a mistake. So, everyone's just holding their breath.
Oh, she's so close. She is so close. She's looking it over. The second hand is coming up.
I fill in the last letter and turn around, and I'm crying just even thinking about it. And the place just went totally nuts. They're going, Ellen, Ellen. A guy pulled out a banner that said, Ripstein, this is your year. And I was going, are you sure? Are you sure? Would you check the puzzle? And they were checking. No. And I was just sobbing. It was so great.
In a dramatic, come-from-behind, last-second victory, Ellen is the winner. Hollywood couldn't have scripted a better finish.
It is a kind of nerdy thing, but it's neat. Although I had a boyfriend once who was just, he would sort of try to put me down, and I would say, well, what are you the best in the country at, At least there's something.
That film really holds a special place in my heart, and Pat Creedon, the director, and Christine O'Malley, the producer, are dear friends. They're basically family. But it was one of those miracle little films, financed by credit cards by those guys, complete wing and a prayer. Nobody knew if anybody would care about the film. We submitted a rough cut to Sundance, and we got in, and it changed everybody's life forever. It was back in 2005 when we got the announcement, and then 2006 Sundance. And it still stands as one of my favorite things I ever put together because there are so many intricate loops in that film that Pat and I and Chris and all the rest of the crew kind of watched for. And if you look very carefully at this film, editorially, it's built like a crossword puzzle. And we actually do slide the frame up and down as you go. And if you pay attention, you're actually moving through the grid of a crossword puzzle throughout the film. At the end of the film, the last image pulls back, and you're on the final square of a crossword puzzle that contains all the moves, more or less, that we made throughout the film. And for the puzzler community, which watches for this kind of stuff, they love that. It's like, oh, you guys totally put an Easter egg for us, But it's a great way to build a film, So, oh, yeah, we're going to clue this way and clue this way. And everything interlocks in the film. So the stuff you see in this piece, this is 3 minutes and 22 seconds about Ellen. And you know more about her in that 3 minutes and 22 seconds than maybe a whole film about her would reveal because it's really compact. I mean, right away you realize she's a little uncomfortable. She slides the subway card and it doesn't work a bunch of times. And she's like, she kind of doesn't have her stuff all together. She's a little awkward, and yet she has this presence and this dignity. And the whole piece is about the payoff of, what are you the best in the country at? That is such a power line. We still get cheers in audiences for that when we have revival screenings of the film. But it's all about the economy of the edit. There's very little actually, it's mostly one sit-down interview interlaced with the thing she's talking about. There's nothing fancy about it. It's just, there are details in there that tell the story visually, and through character, little machinations in her character. She's picking up the little Valentine's Day cake. That's another little piece of character. So she has a life bigger than just the crossword puzzles. She has a more complex life than just she's a nerd girl who does nothing but crosswords. She has a bigger thing going on than that. And the baton at the end, actually, which is a very funny button on it, also pays off later because you see her at a talent show they have at the crossword puzzle tournament, and she sticks the landing. She totally nails the baton. So everything is always a setup for something else. You're always moving backwards and forwards, trying to scoop up all these character bits and make it all pay off as one big experience. So character is everything, and you're always writing that into every scene. There's no wasted space. You always try to not have something that doesn't relate to everything else. Even if it's a very long, slow scene, it always pays out somewhere else, You kind of keep an eye out for that. Here's another example of that. This is from the film Superheroes, which was on HBO a few years ago. You saw the part of the trailer for that. This is the profile of our hero, Mr. Extreme, San Diego's crime-fighting superstar. And I'll just let him do the talking here. Whoops.
I do not have any superpowers. Having superpowers does not necessarily make you a superhero. I think it's having super motivation and doing super deeds. I think that's what makes you a superhero. Welcome to the Extreme Cave. This is my residence, my apartment. I do call it the Extreme Cave because it is where I live, but it's also where I operate the Extreme Justice League, where I do my research and where I store my equipment. Very much into comic books. I collect comic books, read them, stare at them. They are my inspiration. Obviously, I'm very much into Power Rangers. Yep. Yeah, they're gonna morph. We can go with some of my book collection, Sheep Shots, Ambushes, and Other Lessons. One Strike Stopping Power, California Penal Code, The Criminal Law Handbook, World's Deadliest Fighting Secrets, The Brutal Art of Ripping, Poking, and Pressing Vital Targets. This is a bob, or a body opponent bag. It's used by a lot of different martial artists, martial arts schools. Start off with a palm strike to the nose, followed up by eye gouge, and then put in an elbow technique to his temple, another elbow technique, and then come in here, and then boom. I can even demonstrate some of my techniques from my super extreme death metal fighting system. Oh man, he's got my arms, maybe he's punching me, he's fucking headbutting me, I gotta try to protect my face, and then boom, I can just try to reach for his eyes and just scoop him out with my thumb, and then maybe the other one, and then maybe I can just grab, like, just pretty much dig my thumbs into his eyes, and I can just come in with, you know, a bite. Bitch slap his ass. I've grown up in a household of abuse, violence. I was bullied in school. I myself have been a victim of violent crime, and I've witnessed all the apathy and all the indifference. People are just all into themselves, and I see all this shallowness going around. I do this to protest the things that are just wrong with society.
What was really fun about that film, first of all, that documentary was the first feature, confirmed first feature, completed on a DSLR completely, which was really interesting. Talk about workflow challenge. This was before the 5D even had 24p, you know, and it was a nightmare to learn how to do this basically live and create this. But Michael Barnett, wonderful director, and Theodore TJ, I know, as who produced it. It's such good people, and they really just, they had a lot of heart in this film, and the idea was not to make fun of these guys. Even though they're very funny characters, if you watch the whole film, what happens and what the audience's question about by the end of the film is, you go from thinking these guys are off their rockers to these are some of the most upstanding citizens you've ever met. By the end of it, you're feeling like, what have I done to change my world? These guys all have a belief system, and they all actually go out and do this based on their beliefs. So what's beautiful about it is, as wacky as it seems at the beginning, you will end up really loving Mr. Extreme by the end, and you'll feel like he's a role model in a way that you didn't expect by the end of it. So those unexpected turns in character, you're always looking for that. You always want to set up maybe a false front and maybe pay something else off as you go forward. People come into a film about real-life superheroes thinking these guys are out of their minds. And by the time you leave, you go, wow, that really challenged my beliefs. My favorite documentaries challenge my whole worldview. No matter what I think is true, I love a film that at least poses a challenge to it and at least teaches me something new. I try to find something that's teachable in every film, that's something brand new every single time. I'm going to just check time here because I don't know how many clips. I really want to show you, this is a slightly longer clip, and I do want to warn that it's potentially a little triggery if anybody has any sort of issues with that. It's from The Invisible War, and it is a absolutely brutal piece of journalism that Kirby Dick followed all the way to the deep roots here. I'm very proud of this film, and as some of you know, this film actually changed the law of the United States of America. The film was seen by Leon Panetta, the Secretary of Defense, and he unilaterally changed the military justice code. And then from there have been 3 very close attempts to change major rules in the military, which keep getting bilateral and majority support, but the Senate can't pass it because the Senate is the Senate right now. Anyway, as you watch this, think about how this central character that you're going to meet shapes the bigger picture. It's really an investigative piece of journalism with a core character who has lived through something really pretty intense.
What needs to be done and should be done as it relates to the problem of sexual assault within the military, women in the military that have had a great deal of difficulty accessing some sense of justice.
I totally share your concerns. We have to have zero tolerance for any kind of sexual assaults in the military.
At a small post in Washington, D.C., Marine pride, history and tradition live on. Marine Barracks at 8th and I Streets is the oldest post in the Corps, and for 100 years, from the early 1800s, it was Marine Corps headquarters.
Marine Barracks in Washington, D.C. is the most prestigious unit there is in the Marine Corps. This is the unit where the best of the best go. It is the Marine Corps' showcase ceremonial unit. It handles presidents and dignitaries, security at the White House, the silent drill team.
After my deployment to Operation Iraqi Freedom in 2008, 2009, my commanding officer recommended me for the Marine Barracks Washington. I was excited. It was the tip of the spear as far as the Marine Corps is concerned.
She would stay at work late, and then she would drive home, and she'd call me, and she'd be on some kind of little high, and she'd talk about how she loved her job. She was this sweet person who was trying really hard and succeeding.
One of the first things I was told when I checked in was, don't wear any makeup because the Marines will all think that you want to sleep with them. And I thought, that's just ridiculous.
The atmosphere off the bat at Marine Barracks Washington was horrible. People asked me what sexual favors had I performed to get my orders there.
There was a senior officer in my command who, the first time he spoke to me, he said, female Marines here are nothing but objects for the Marines to fuck.
So the minute a female shows up at my work, she's immediately pounced on. All of the new females get talked about, saying that they're having sex, sleeping with so-and-so. Apparently I slept with all these men, and I mean, I didn't.
It got progressively worse and worse. They determined that I welcomed the sexual harassment by wearing my regulation length uniform skirt and running in running shorts. There were several junior female Marines that came up to me crying while I was there, saying that they felt too humiliated to come to work.
One of the duties at Marine Barracks, Washington was a ceremonial drill. The evening parades are what you would see on the news, the silent drill platoon, president, everybody goes to those type of things.
After the parades, all the officers are required to stay till midnight and drink in Center House at Marine Barracks, Washington. So we're talking about Wednesday night happy hours that start at 3 and end at 2 a.m.
It was a partying and drinking culture. The atmosphere revolved around going out and partying and drinking.
I was ordered to drink. I was ordered to attend the drinking events.
My boss even said that they were mandatory to me. She's like, we do our best work at these events.
We went to various pubs and bars, and the goal was to do a shot at each one, all paid for by the Marine Corps.
You're talking about drinking events where other senior officers are drinking to the point of peeing in their pants, you know, passing out on lawns. This is the norm.
At one bar, I had water, and I was ordered a shot anyways and told I needed to take 2 shots to make up for that. I left the bar to get a cab. My company commander followed me and said, I need to talk to you about some things. So we walked up the stairs into his office. There was a little bit of a struggle. He tried to kind of make an advance and try to kiss me. I tried to leave, and he slammed the door on my arms. I fell on the ground and hit my face on his desk, and the next thing I realized was I had woken up wearing his shorts with all of my clothes off and in tremendous pain. I knew enough about me that something wasn't right, and I had felt entirely violated. The colonel at one point said, you know, Lieutenant Helmer, boys, girls, and alcohol just don't mix. We'll never really know what happened inside that office. Only you and the major know, and he's not talking. So at this point, the investigation is closed for lack of evidence, and we've reopened a new investigation against you for conduct unbecoming an officer and public intoxication.
I remember going to the bar. It was an officer that started buying shots for us. After I'd had a couple drinks, that's all I remember. This officer bragged to his fellow officer friends that he had bagged me. I got called up to a major's office, and he charged me with fraternization and adultery. He was married, I wasn't, and I was charged with adultery.
I told the Battalion XO about the humiliation in the comments, and he said, you know, you should do what a Marine officer should do, and that's to ignore it and move on.
I used to lie awake in bed, you know, wondering what I could do to help her get out.
He said that if I told anybody that he was gonna have his friend Marv from Indiana kill me and throw me in a ditch, because that's how they took care of things in Indiana.
She went to war and gave 9 years of her life. And for them to take it and come back and say, yes, they called you a whore. Yes, they called you a slut. Yes, they called you a walking mattress. It's documented over and over and over again. But you deserved it, and when you complained about it, you were welcoming it.
The actions of my seniors, both in the assault and in the ensuing investigations, have really destroyed me.
When your wife doesn't come home to rummage through the house, searching for the suicide note. To call the police with one hand while you're restraining her from killing herself with the other.
I think the thing that makes me the most angry is not even the rape in itself. It's the commanders that were complicit in covering up everything that happened.
Yeah, so that's just a sample of the sort of outrage that the whole film brings up, and it is on Netflix. By the way, I think everything I'm showing tonight is either on Netflix or Hulu, so feel free to check them out in their entirety. There's some things to be found there. I very much recommend The Invisible War if you want to know what's really going on out there. And I will say, I can say this much in a slight cloud of NDA, that I literally came here from the edit room. I'm working with Kirby Dick on the follow-up to The Invisible War right now about college campuses, same subject. So that is coming this fall. You will be hearing about it. Yeah, so we're working on it right now. So again, I mean, the whole thing about making a documentary, even one as charged as this, is it really is about characters. And if you watch The Invisible War, there's a main character who is in an active fight to get her benefits from the VA, which has suddenly become a hot story, finally. But she is living that story, 3 years ago, and we filmed that, so that's another portion of the film. But that character and her quirks and her strength and her power throughout this really kind of stitch the film together. So when you watch that, watch for how those moments of character kind of couch all of the arguments made for the case that the film's making. It really is about bonding with a character and living her life through the film. So again, it goes back to character and story, always, always, always. I mean, you can make a film that rails about this or that or the other thing, but if you don't have something people can hook into and relate to, people just won't show up. People won't take that ride with you. A screed is not what people want. People want to live a life with someone, and if you've got a point to make it through someone. Make it through someone's story. We'll do a little Q&A on that in a minute, but I wanted to close out. I wanted to bring up the room a little bit here, and I'm going to go back, hopefully, to the DVD player that's still holding here. This is from 20 Feet from Stardom, a film about the great backup singers, the unheralded backup singers of all the music we all know very well. This is the sort of the turn of arguably the greatest of them all, Darlene Love, and the story point where she goes to her lowest and then rises up to her highest point. I'll just show you a little portion of this real quick, and then we can do Q&A.
A woman doesn't know who she is, and she's settled for less. Check out your worth, because you're worth more than that.
I couldn't sleep. I was getting in such a depressed state. I called my mother and father, asked them if they would take care of my kids. And the most enjoyment I got back in those days was singing in church. That's the only place that I was actually singing during those times. The only thing I thought I could do and make a little money to survive, I started cleaning houses. Not the great Darlene Love. She's not doing cleaning houses. I said, yes, the great Darlene Love is. She is cleaning houses. One particular Christmas, I was cleaning this lady's bathroom. And Christmas Baby, Please Come Home. My Christmas record came on the radio while I was cleaning this bathroom. And I just looked up and just said, okay, all right, darling, this is not where you're supposed to be. You're supposed to be singing. There's a whole world out there who wants to hear you sing. And then the move from California to New York, my career just took off.
Nice to have you here. Everything okay with you?
Everything is wonderful.
Thanks for being here. Come back and sing it again next year.
Of course.
I hope you have a good holiday.
I have to plan what I'm going to do. I have to take little jobs.
Bastard's got my daughter.
Just so you can keep your name out there. But if I didn't do those jobs, then nobody would really know who Darlene Love was.
As a young person, I thought everybody could sing. When you start getting older, then you realize everyone is not a singer and that these are gifts. And you have to share and go out into the world.
The beauty of first of all, Morgan Neville, who directed the film, is just he's touched with music and with art, and he understands these stories at a level that goes so much beyond the biopic. You know, we get a lot of people contacting us about 20 Feet saying, you know, I'm a banker in Lincoln, Nebraska, and that film talked to me. I'm a backup singer too, you know. There are universal truths in that film that I'm so proud to have been a part of it, and I have to credit my co-editors on that, Jason Zeldis and Kevin Klauber, who was here a couple of months ago. They did a phenomenal amount of work on this, and I was very lucky to take the ride with those guys and Morgan and the crew. But it was one of those magic things where the characters represented something so much bigger than just what the movie was about. And the best documentaries do that. The best documentaries are not just about crossword puzzles or superheroes or any other subject. They're about bigger things, you know, whether they're about family or love or truth or hatred or whatever. They speak to bigger truths. And you do that through characters. You do that through characters and story, always. The beauty of this scene is that all of the things in that scene will pay off at the end of the film in really triumphant ways. There are planted things that are all waiting to hatch right at the end, just when you need that little hit right in the feels, you know, right at the end. There's going to be Darlene Love's story will culminate in this beautiful finale, but I won't spoil it. I will let you guys watch the film on Netflix now, you know, and on DVD and Blu-ray.